So now that we can see our Lambda functioning, our Lambda called functioning Jeff, let's go ahead and check out how we can call this through a web request. Because if we check out our execution trigger, we've got that set to an API gateway. So you could come into the Lambda, come to the function itself, and then go to triggers and then say, go here to get me to the stack Nick is wearing a black shirt. But that's a bit of a long-winded way of doing it. You could also come to services and type in API gateway. And we'll open that one in a new tab. Whoops, just stop clicking and go to the next tab. And here we have an API which is called Nick is wearing a black shirt. So API Gateway is Lambda's way of saying, let's give you a web interface to talk to other services that we provide. So in here, we have got a resource, which is /get. And we can look in that and say, if a client calls this web request, it'll make a method request to an integration request, which is a Lambda proxy. That Lambda will be Nick is functioning Jeff, as you can see here. That'll return the response, which will then come back to the client. You go, wait, what? That's just a big convoluted way of doing it.
You don't need to worry about that.
You don't have to worry about that. No, it's showing you that this is how it's doing it. Basically, what we've got is we come to stages, and we'll go look at stage. So you can deploy to production or stage and have them concurrently. Cool. We can see we've got / and then we'll go get. And it says, hey, here's the URL that you can call to get your thing. So what have we got? We've just got some HTTPS. So we've already got HTTPS SSL on for us. So Ray, that's very nice. And it says this is the way that you could execute the Lambda. So let's go there and check it out. Let's run it. Hey, this is the body of the request.
What's the? Come on. 418.
418.
Oh, it doesn't say.
Nick wanted to see the teapot.
No, where's? Come on. Where? What? Come on.
Nick really wants to see his teapot.
Usually says it. What? It's not. Is it off filtered? How do I turn off the filter?
It's not filtered. There's no filter set.
Oh yeah, you're right. Wait, how come there's nothing here then?
There is over here.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. You know what?
Oh, no, it's never mind. Damn it.
You got 5 more seconds.
5 seconds. This one. Oh my god, no.
3.
There's nothing here.
2.
I give up.
1. Oh, he gave up with 2 seconds to go. Nick was trying to find the 418 I am a teapot written out.
It actually does, but you can find that in your own time.
All right. So now we've got this API, this web request, this web URL that we can talk to that goes ahead and calls our Lambda for us. So check this out. We can just go, you know what, refresh. And it's done. And it's done. And it's done. I'll stop doing that. But great. How do we know what the URL is going to be? We want to have 2 Lambdas here, and we want to have 2 endpoints for us to talk to. So you don't have to make it just /stage or /prod. That's it. You're done. You can come back to our Visual Studio project, go into serverless.template, and in here we've got the events. This is the events that triggers the Lambda to happen, the trigger part. And we're saying it's of type API. The path is going to be /, so whatever we look at here is up to, pretend that you've got this written there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You've got this path here, and we'll call it, I will now call Jeff's function, and it is a HTTP GET request. So now if we deploy this, publish, and then just publish it, and then chill while it does its whole stack formation, cloud formation. While that's happening, I'm going to grab a drink and take a breath. You gotta remember to breathe, man.
Yeah.
Precious water. Okay, so that's deployed successfully.
Oh, it's in progress still.
So, but Visual Studio has done its part and said, I am now pushing that up to AWS, which means that we can come inside back into Visual Studio and change things away as much as we want to. So I kind of want to go into serverless template and get the second one set up. but then that might be confusing. So we're just going to wait for this to finish. The video is still running.
Oh.
No, not you. I mean me. That it's still
like
just letting people know that the static screen was doing nothing.
Oh.
Well, what did you think?
I don't know.
Okay. Nick just went and freaked out of it. All right, so here we go. Let's take this part that we want. And you can even see it's got the AWS serverless URL. This is the same URL that we could call.
Oh, it's nice that it's just there.
It's just straight there instead of us having to also come up to API Gateway to find it. So let's refresh this part, which is the API Gateway of Nikki's wearing a black shirt. Where did it go? There it is. So, so we go to stage, and now we've got I will now call Jeff's function, which is what we put in the serverless template, and we've said it's a GET request. That's so fast. Now look at the entire URL. The other one that we had before, the stage of /nothing, says I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. So we can now come to this one. I will now call Jeff's function, which we know goes behind the scenes and calls the Lambda Jeff's function, which is not running.
You lost the complete URL. You're missing part of the start.
Oh, okay.
You have to recopy. Yeah.
Ah, thank you. I was about to have a freak out. There we go. So now we have a endpoint, HTTP endpoint. I will now call Jeff's function, which then goes to the Lambda, and now there is no access to that Lambda except through this API Gateway.
So we've technically created the API serverless template ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like an API method.
Yep.
Cool.
To the Lambda.
Yep. That's pretty
cool.
That was pretty easy and pretty cool.
Easy to do. So now let's go back to Visual Studio.
I wouldn't want to make that template myself.
Oh no! If you look at we could have gone through how to deploy all this stuff on our own.
It's not fun.
It's a pain in the ass. I don't have to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, Nick will attest to that because
I did it myself.
To do it himself.
It took days.
Yeah, I like that this does it. All right, let's move on. So here is functioning Jeff. Let's look at the curly brace to see when the curly brace finishes. It's this one. So I'm going to copy, put a comma, and say, just add another one, please. And it goes red and it says, I've already got a functioning Jeff. So let's call it functioning Sally.
I think it's Sarah.
Sarah. Uh-oh. It was Sarah.
It's Sarah the function.
It's Sarah the function. All right, so let's take it's Sarah the function, take that into serverless template, functioning Sarah.
Yep.
And the handler, we can put in here, it's Sarah, the function. And now the path, the API path, can be, I will now call Sarah.
Yep, cool. Deploy.
And if we go to the function, we can see that this one says, I am Sarah. Hi, Nick, it's Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. It's Nick.
Call me, maybe. And publish it. Publish.
So it would have been nice if they sort of wrapped this when you ran this locally, so you could actually sort of hit it as if it was deployed.
You know what they released on Thursday?
What?
Exactly that.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Good. Because for my own thing, I had to write a wrapper for that as well, so I could run it as a server.
Yeah, you get to that point where you go, I don't want to have to deploy it to make a tiny change. I just want to test it locally.
But because the scariest thing for me is what if you're in what if multiple people are working on this project which needs these lambdas and then you're overriding each other's? Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
So what Nick's getting at there is, how do I just test it locally without having to deploy it up to AWS every single time? And there's other things you can do. You can also just come into the solution and add another project.
Oh, that's a good point.
And then make this a console app.
That is a good point.
And now this console app can reference the welcome to Lambda. And now you can make this console app be the default project.
That's actually very smart.
So now you can come along and say play, and it'll call that, and you can do it that way. till we finish that
I can't
example.
believe I didn't think about that. That's a very good point.
I didn't think of that either. Joel showed me.
Oh.
I can't take credit. Cool. All right. So now we should be able to. Is it finished? It should have finished by now. Yes. Great. So now we can come up here and go to API Gateway and check this out, and also go to Lambda and check out the functions that are available to us inside of Lambda, and refresh this page. Ooh, it was the wrong button. So now we've got functioning Jeff and functioning Sarah. API Gateway has got, I will now call Jeff's function, and I will now call Sarah. So they're both available. We can call both endpoints now. So we can come in here and say, Sarah, what's your endpoint? Why? This is my endpoint. I will now call Jeff's function, is working perfectly fine, and I will now call Sarah. So notice how Jeff ran really fast, whereas Sarah is still running. Yeah, so Sarah has to turn herself on. And then we can refresh and it goes really fast.
Woo.
So up and running. Now we go, hey, if we had all that logging happening, how do I see Sarah's log if I wasn't running it from the Lambda? Because she was writing out the little log parts that she was doing stuff. She wanted to go, Nick, call me maybe. So we can now come back into the Lambda and say functioning Sarah. And we've got monitoring. And here we can see the amount of times that Sarah has been called and the amount of times that Sarah has been running for. And you go, wow, she ran for 3 seconds? Well, that was the first turn on. And then after then, she got nice and fast.
You know what's weird about the word invoke?
Invocation?
Yeah, because it's like they changed the K to a C.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Never noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, so what you can also do is then go view logs in CloudWatch. So every time you run the function and you write logs out, it writes it to CloudWatch. So you can come to the specific function, view logs in CloudWatch, and that brings up another tab, which is another AWS service called CloudWatch, which is all about monitoring your the runs of your stuff. And now we can look at the stream, and inside of this stream, we can come in here and say, hi, Nick, it's Sarah. Call me maybe. Hi, Nick, it's Sarah. Call me maybe.
I keep scrolling down. Is that multiple? Oh, this is just for functioning Sarah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we can see up here we have the log groups for functioning Sarah specifically. So then you get into the world of, wow, can I have a Lambda call another Lambda? And you go, yeah, you can. You can have Lambdas. You go, what if I need to have one Lambda do something, another Lambda do something, and then a third Lambda which waits for those other two to finish before it knows what the input is to do itself. So then you can go, awesome. That's when you get into the world of step functions, which we're not going to talk about. But then you can set up a whole flow of Lambdas and say, this must happen. This one should happen. If they fail, call this other Lambda. If those two go correctly, then call this other function. And they can pass variables around to each other. So then you can have a whole fleet of individual functions that are always off until you say do something, and then they turn on to do something.
So something to know about Lambdas is that you can set them to run up to 5 minutes, because if it doesn't return anything after 5 minutes, then AWS is like, well, I don't know if you're dead or not, so I'm gonna just turn you off.
Yes.
However, API Gateway has its own timeout, which is 30 seconds. So make sure your Lambdas are fast.
Yes, make sure your Lambdas are fast.
Especially for APIs.
Okay. That is a very, very good point, and I was not going to mention that. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
That's right.
So
it's also one of the annoying parts of my deployment.
Oh yeah, because you had your one that was like running too long, and the Lambda was like the API was
it was like timing out for some of the
did.
things. I was like, damn it.
So all kinds of fun things that you can do.
Also, you can
with
make your Lambda faster if you, for some reason, if you increase the amount of RAM it can use. So I had one of my functions at home. It does some hard, like a lot of processing.
Yep.
And see how you can change the memory size. I had to change that to like 2048.
Oh wow.
Or something like that, because anything lower than that, it wouldn't run.
Right.
It just like timed out.
Fair enough. How much stuff are you bringing into it?
It's not. I mean,
I know it's going to have its own bit that it needs to keep.
I don't know. Maybe because I'm spinning up some like headless browser.
Right.
That could be it. So the headless browser needs a certain amount of memory.
Inside
I don't know. But it also means that it's going to cost me more money to run it. So.
Yes.
But yeah.
All right. What you can also do with Lambdas is go static string I am string,
A string.
a string. And now if you have one function that says I am a string, whoa, that's not what I wanted. I am a string is equal to I have been set to Sarah.
That's actually sort of cool.
So you can set the static variable and then say, awesome, now every single time Sarah sees it, she can have access to that static variable. Because
You could
it's
set.
static.
You could make a new. Oh, I see what you're doing. I thought that you would be modifying. Wait, yeah, you would be
Yeah,
modifying.
you can modify
this,
it. So you're modifying the static variable.
Yeah.
But Jeff is a separate function. And so Jeff would run under a different container. And if Sarah set the value of I am a string,
You can still have it.
Jeff doesn't see it because he's his own separate container.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So there's fun things you can do around there to like to do things, which can be fun. Great sentence, Richard. All right, cool. So that's a pretty quick introduction to Lambdas.
Cool.
I hope you
fun.
find thing. Have a play and become familiar with them because they are quite cool. There's one last thing that I will talk about in that we have been using .NET for our Lambdas. You don't have to use .NET. You can also go and create a function. And there are a bunch of other languages that you can use.
Many things.
Many things. Let's go author from scratch.
What?
And we'll say it's an API gateway. They've changed it. Where's just to pick the language?
Next, probably.
Next.
Yeah,
Here we go. What language do you want to write your function in? C# takes its time to turn on the thing originally.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with it because I like .NET and I'm very familiar with it.
Yep.
Java also has a bit of a spin-up time. It's not as big as C#, but it's also great if you know Java. Node and Python, they spin up in probably 200 to 300 milliseconds.
Yeah, they're very, very fast.
So if you know Node or Python, Lambdas are very good and I wouldn't say better. But they can then be used to use it as a full consumer thing. Like imagine if someone said, "I'll write my entire website in Lambdas and C#."
And then the first spin-up time is real slow, and then
exactly. And then every single API endpoint is going to be a different function, and then it took 4 seconds to load every single page. That would suck. But then the second person who came along would just go, "Bah, bah, 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 wow, this website's really cool."
Yeah, yeah, it can be really inconsistent. But that said, performance benchmarks have been taken. Apparently, Python's the fastest function.
In the spin-up time or just overall?
Overall.
Yeah, Python's pretty cool.
For some reason.
Go Python!
Yeah. Yep. Anyway.
All right, so that is where we are going to finish this video off. And in the next one, we will start looking at how we can get Athena to be called from our .NET Lambda. So that we can use Athena as our database and get rid of our EC2 and RDS servers.
Cool.
All right, see you in the next video, guys.
See you later.